Hey guys, welcome back here to Intuitive Angling, and appreciate you guys joining me for a late video today. Normally I put that video, my second video, out about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but at the time of filming this, we're driving home from the lake and it's 8:30, and Kim is filming, and Elijah's in the back right now. They are not happy because we had a suck day on the water, fish catching wise. And that's what I sort of want to talk a little bit about today, is what happens as far as, when you sort of analyze having a bad day on the water, what some things you can do about it, change the trajectory of it. But first of all, one of the things you got to realize is, because I've had a bunch of both. I've had a lot of great days on the water. I've had a lot of bad days on the water. But one of the things you got to take in consideration is that fishing is tough. Most of the time, if you're fishing on a public body of water, it's a grind most of the time. So you really have to appreciate, the times that you do catch them, because like today, we went out there hot all day long. We only caught 2 fish all day long. It's just a long grind day on the water. So here's some things you can do about that. First of all, you got to be kind to yourself in terms of, it happens to everybody. You're going to have slow days on the water. And then another thing is that some days are just more conducive to the fish bite than others. A lot of it can depend on the current flow. It can depend on, the weather patterns that are going through. It can depend on, how much noise is going on the lake as far as the noise decibels, the fishing pressure. There's a lot of factors. And another thing about it, it's like when you go fishing, you've only got, however many hours, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, however many you have. And you can't do everything. It's like you can't be everywhere, all over the lake. You can't throw 100 different lures. You sort of have to pick, your plan for the day in that area, and you have, a handful of techniques that you're going to try. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. If it works out, your confidence soars, and you look like a genius to everybody. And if it doesn't work out, a lot of times you look like you don't know what you're doing. But nevertheless, it is going to happen. So here's some things that you can do to minimize, having those bad days on the water. First of all, there's 2 things that you have to consider when you're figuring out the fish. Number 1 is you have to have a level of versatility, or you ask yourself if you need to be versatile, or do you commit to something? So a lot of times, if something's not working, it's a good idea to change up the areas, change up the technique, change up the bait you're using, change up the color you're using. Sometimes that'll fix it. Other times, you may have the right lure, and it just may be a timing deal. It just may be, say you get out there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and for whatever reason, the fish are biting in the middle of the day. And you may have the best bait, but unless you commit to that and stay with that, you'll never capitalize on it. But like today, we were, fishing some slow stuff that wasn't working. We finally picked up a jerkbait, second half of the day, and we had several followers. We had a couple fish on, wound up catching a couple fish on it, and that was just a matter of a process of elimination. But here's the thing that you have to remember above anything else when you are trying to figure the fish out. You got to figure out, are these fish in a chasing mood, or are they in an inactive, non-chasing mood? And the chasing mood usually means you can catch them on moving baits, reaction baits, that type of stuff. And those type of conditions are more like, prefrontal, southerly airflow. You've got some wind, you got some current, you usually have some cloud cover. That makes them chase. If you don't have that, if you have some other weather patterns like a rising barometric pressure, your light intensity is real bright, and a lot of fishing pressure on the lake, just all that type of stuff, a lot of times those fish will not leave their ambush areas, and you got to fish on the bottom slow. And that is probably the most consistent way to fish. It's like day in and day out, usually the people that fish slow with bottom baits are the ones that usually come out ahead. The moving bait reaction people, they'll have like occasional, situations where they blow everyone out when the situations are right. But most of the time it's a slow bait. I'll give you a prime example. It's like Larry Nixon's probably one of the top 3 most consistent anglers I've ever seen. in my career, and Larry fished slow baits all the time. He fished a jig, he fished a worm, he fished a Cinco. That's what he did. And he'd catch them. It didn't matter if it was cloudy, sunny, windy, not any wind, he would consistently catch them. And then you see other anglers out there that are power bait fishermen that really fish spinner baits and crankbaits a lot, top waters. They may win more tournaments, but they also fall on their butt more. They have a lot of inconsistency trying to force feed them a reaction bait. So anyway, guys, frustrated day on the water. Nobody's real happy in the truck here going home. I asked Kim if she had a good day fishing, and she sort of looked at me with a side eye and gave me a funny look, you know, to know it was hot and I didn't catch anything. So that's sort of the way fishing goes sometimes. But anyway, guys, appreciate you tuning in. We'll talk later.